What if everything we believe is nothing but noise dressed as truth? We wake up, we move, we speak, we think. And somewhere inside, we assume all of this means something. We trust our senses, we trust our thoughts. We trust the feeling that we are real, that there's a world out there and a self in here. But why? Why do we believe the chair is solid, the sun will rise, that the person we were yesterday still exists today? Because we see it? Because we remember it? Because it feels obvious? That's the problem. It always feels obvious, until it doesn't. Descartes once said, "If you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt everything." So let's do it. Let's doubt everything. Not just for philosophy, not for debate, but for something deeper, for freedom. Because if we never question what we know, we stay trapped, chained to beliefs we didn't choose, memories we never verified, assumptions that may not be ours. We believe we exist because we think. We believe the world is real because we see it. But what if thought is just noise in the dark? What if sight is just a dream inside a skull? What if everything we've ever called knowledge is just faith with better branding? We trust logic, we trust patterns, we trust the past. But none of these are guarantees. They are habits, comforts, illusions we cling to because the alternative is too terrifying to face. And David Hume knew this. He didn't just doubt religion or tradition. He doubted cause itself. He doubted the mind. He doubted us. He whispered the one thing no one wants to hear. You think you are? Prove it. This is not just a battle of philosophers. This is a war inside the human condition. Because we want to believe in certainty. We crave anchors. We beg for truth. But what if truth isn't something we discover? What if it's something we invent? What if everything we've ever believed about knowledge, reason, memory, self is just a story we tell ourselves to keep from going insane? Descartes tried to save us with reason. Hume pulled the floor out from under it. And now we're left standing on nothing. If Descartes was right, we can rebuild. But if Hume was right, there may be nothing left to rebuild. When everything around us begins to collapse, what do we hold on to? René Descartes faced that question in the middle of chaos. The world around him was crumbling, old religions falling, scientific revolutions shaking the foundations. Everywhere, doubt. So he did something most of us are too afraid to do. He stopped trusting the world. He turned inward, not to escape, but to begin again. I will doubt everything, he said, until I find what cannot be doubted. We live our lives on layers of assumption, that our memories are real, that time moves forward, that our hands, our breath, our names mean something. But Descartes stripped all of it away. He imagined a demon deceiving him, whispering lies into his senses, forging illusions of shape, color, time, even logic. And yet, there was one thing the demon could never fake: doubt itself. Because to doubt, there must be a doubter. To think, there must be a thinker. And so he declared, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. In a universe of shadows, Descartes found a spark, not in what he saw, not in what he touched, but in the raw, inner act of consciousness. We may doubt everything else, but we cannot doubt that something is doubting, and that something is us. This was not just philosophy. This was survival. Because once we realize the world might be a dream, we either fall into despair or we search for bedrock. Descartes chose to build. He laid the first stone, I exist. And from there, he tried to rebuild the world, piece by rational piece. He used logic as a compass. He argued that God must exist, because the very idea of perfection had to come from a perfect source. He used geometry, mathematics, and reason to carve a path through the fog. To him, the mind was a mirror of truth, not because it was flawless, but because it could reflect with clarity when cleaned of doubt. Descartes believed that inside us, beneath the confusion, there is a rational core, a place where certainty lives, a place where truth isn't guessed, it's known. And that was his gift to us, not answers, but a method, a way to test everything, question everything, until only what is unshakable remains. He gave us a way to fight madness, to fight deception, to say, no matter what happens out there, I still exist in here. But not everyone believed that was enough. Because while Descartes found comfort in reason, David Hume found danger. Descartes thought doubt was a tool. Hume saw it as a trap with no exit. René Descartes built a fortress out of reason. He believed that if we just think hard enough, we can carve truth from chaos. But then David Hume came along and burned the blueprint. Hume wasn't just skeptical, he was surgical. He didn't argue with your conclusions. He questioned the very foundation you stood on, and then asked, how do you know that foundation is even real? He didn't scream. He didn't preach. He calmly walked into the mind and started cutting. We believe we ourselves, that there's a me inside this skull, something stable, consistent, lasting. But Hume looked inside, and he didn't find a soul. He didn't find a self. When I enter most intimately into what I call myself, Hume wrote, I always stumble on some particular perception or other. I never can catch myself at any time without a perception, and never can observe anything but the perception. He found fragments, thoughts, feelings, sensations, flickering like images on a screen. But no screen, no center, no self, just the illusion of one. And what about cause and effect? We drop a glass, and it breaks. We light a match, and it burns. We believe one thing causes another. But Hume asked, why? What if all we ever see is sequence, not cause? What if our belief in cause and effect is just a mental habit formed through repetition? The sun rose yesterday. It rises today. So we expect it tomorrow. But expectation is not knowledge. We assume that the future will resemble the past, but we can't prove it. And once that illusion breaks, everything breaks. Hume showed us that reason cannot justify itself, that we trust logic because it works, but we never asked why it works. We rely on experience, but experience is just sensation stitched together by memory, and memory is nothing but faith in the past. He wasn't trying to destroy truth. He was trying to show us how little we have. Descartes found certainty in thought. Hume found uncertainty in everything. He didn't leave us with answers. He left us with silence, with a cold, sharp reminder that what we call knowledge might just be a dream we never woke up from. This wasn't pessimism. This was clarity, a demand that we stop pretending we know what we don't. And maybe a quiet plea to live with a doubt rather than run from it. Descartes found comfort in the mirror of the mind. Hume shattered the glass and asked if we were ever looking at anything real. Here is point-by-point collision, logic against experience. Now we place them side by side. Two minds, two worlds, one trying to rebuild truth from the ashes, the other standing in the smoke saying, "There is no truth to rebuild." This is not just a philosophical clash. This is a war inside us, between the part that craves certainty and the part that fears it was never real to begin with. Number 1. What is knowledge? Descartes believed knowledge begins with rational clarity, that when we strip away illusions, we arrive at self-evident truths, truths that logic confirms. To know something, we must deduce it with absolute precision. Math geometry, pure thought, certainty is found within. But Hume said, forget deduction, look around. All knowledge comes from impressions, from experience. Touch, sound, heat, pain, memory. If we don't experience it, we don't know it. And even when we do, we don't really know it, because experience is limited, biased, fleeting. Descartes, I know because I think. Hume, we know only what we see, and even that deceives us. Number 2, can we know the self? Descartes built his philosophy on the I. I think, therefore I am. The mind, the soul, the thinker, this is the unshakable foundation. But Hume tore that apart. He looked inward and found no thinker, only thinking, no soul, only sensations. To Hume, the self is not a solid structure. It's a river of impressions, always moving, always changing. No core, no anchor, just movement. Descartes, we are thinking beings. Hume, we are just the thoughts. Number 3, can we trust cause and effect? Descartes believed that causality could be proven by logic and the nature of God, that the universe follows rational laws because it was built by a rational creator. But Hume didn't see laws. He saw habits, patterns we grew attached to because they seemed to work. The flame always burns until it doesn't. We assume because it comforts us, but assumptions are not knowledge. Descartes, order is real. Hume, order is an illusion we project. Number 4, can we trust our reasoning? Descartes trusted the mind like a compass. He believed reason could never betray us because it was given by a perfect source. Hume didn't trust even that. He said, look closer. What is reason? A tool used after impressions arrive. We don't reason our way to truth. We justify what our senses already told us. And if our senses are flawed, then reason is just a smarter version of ignorance. Descartes, reason saves us. Hume, reason fools us beautifully. Number 5, what can we truly be sure of? Descartes gave us one certainty, that if we think, we exist. It's not much, but it's a beginning. Hume gave us nothing, not because he wanted to destroy us, but because he wanted to protect us from false gods. Better to live in honest doubt than to worship a comforting lie. Descartes gave us a ladder. Hume questioned if there was ever ground to stand on. We are left with this. One philosopher trying to build a mind strong enough to hold the world. Another trying to show us how fragile that mind really is. Both staring into the same darkness. One reaching for light, the other learning how to walk without it. If Descartes gave us a foundation, Hume handed us a mirror and cracked it with a whisper. What if there's nothing behind the reflection? Who wins, or do we lose everything? Descartes gave us certainty. Hume took it away. Descartes gave us the dignity of reason. Hume gave us the honesty of doubt. One wanted to build a cathedral of truth. The other stood at its steps with a torch, asking if it was ever real. But this isn't just their battle. It's ours. Because every day, we make choices based on beliefs we never question. We trust the clock, the face in the mirror, the voice in our head. We assume the world is there, and that we are here. But what if Hume is right? What if everything we call knowledge is just memory wrapped in faith? What if the self is just a sequence of flickers, pretending to be a flame? Can we live with that? Or do we need Descartes' certainty to function, to love, to suffer, to keep going? Because while Hume may be right, Descartes may still be necessary. We might never escape doubt, but we also can't drown in it. Maybe we need both. The fire of reason to rebuild meaning, and the knife of doubt to keep it honest. Maybe this war isn't meant to end. Maybe it's meant to keep us awake. Because in a world where nothing is certain, every thought becomes a choice. Descartes gave us the courage to build. Hume gave us the courage to question. But in the end, it's on us to decide what's real enough to live for. We used to think knowledge was a ladder. Step by step, we'd climb out of ignorance and into truth. But now, we see the ladder shaking. Maybe it was never resting on solid ground. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Hume whispered, "You think you are? Prove it." And here we are, still thinking, still doubting, still reaching for something that won't collapse in our hands. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not meant to find absolute truth. Maybe we're meant to stand in the tension between reason and experience and keep walking anyway. Because the moment we stop questioning, we stop thinking. And the moment we stop thinking, we stop being. So let the doubt stay. Let it sharpen us. Not to destroy, but to protect. Because even in the dark, we think, we search, we are.